Relations between China and Australia are worsening. Chinese academics have had visas withdrawn by Australia. These Australian journalists have had to leave China. And China's language is sharp.
Do not do things to harm the cultural exchange between the two countries, to damage the mutual trust.
This is much more than a regulation diplomatic spat. Here's why the China-Australia row matters. They've always had political differences, but Australia and China found common ground in a hugely valuable trading relationship that gives China imports and Australia income. But things are turning sour. One Australian academic says it's unravelling at a pace that could not have been contemplated just 6 months ago. So let's see what the deterioration has looked like. Well, at its heart, we have Australian concerns about Chinese actions and then Chinese anger and retaliation in return. Australia has criticised China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims, China's new security law in Hong Kong, and it's banned Huawei from its 5G network on security grounds. But most incendiary of all, Australia wants an international investigation into how COVID-19 began in China, and China's response to all of this is undoubtedly shaped by the knowledge that it's Australia's biggest trading partner. It knows its value, and so has placed an 80% tariff on Australian barley, restrictions on some Australian beef exports, and it's flagged the possibility of an Australian wine boycott. It's also confirmed that this woman, Cheng Lei, a high-profile host for the Chinese-controlled broadcaster CGTN and an Australian citizen, has been detained on suspicion of endangering China's national security. But there's an irony here. While the two are falling out over COVID-19, the virus has prompted a Chinese stimulus package, which in turn has increased demand for Australian commodities. So while they're arguing, they're trading furiously. The question is, how long will that be tenable given all of this political rhetoric? And why are both sides willing to risk it? Well, let's be clear on one thing. Both sides have their eyes wide open. Geoff Raby, a former Australian ambassador to China, on Cheng Lei's detention, he says it's not an accidental or random incident when they decide to take action like this. Equally, Australia knew full well that its positions on Huawei and COVID-19 would go down badly in Beijing. So why are they doing it? Well, this is ABC's Bill Birtles on having to leave China.
You just got the general sense from the whole process that this was all part of a bigger political game.
What is this bigger political game? Well, it's no less than a grand struggle between China and the West. It's about how we organise the global economy, how countries are held accountable, and it's also about the West's belief in the morality of its actions. Prime Minister Scott Morrison told Australian radio, "We're an open trading nation, but I'm never going to trade our values in response to coercion from wherever it comes." And that's the rub. This economic marriage of convenience worked while the West kept the criticism down and China limited its assertiveness on the world stage. Neither, though, are keeping their side of the bargain now. China scoffs at the idea that America and its allies can hand out lectures on how to behave. And this is useful from Reuters on Australia. It says, the government of Scott Morrison has reached a stark new view of China. It's not just a top trading partner, but also a threat to the nation's sovereignty. The dramatic shift shows how countries are struggling to cope with China's growing might. Australia is standing up to China. Watch closely. It may be a harbinger of things to come. And that is why this isn't any old diplomatic row. It's about how the West handles a Chinese government that not only wants to be a major player in this political game, but wants to decide the rules as well. At stake is the global balance of power.